I sat in my car outside the beachside venue, my phone on speaker, excited to share the details with my parents. The little restaurant overlooking the ocean wasn't fancy, but it was perfect: string lights, a wooden deck, waves crashing in the background. Exactly what Daniel and I wanted. "Mom, Dad, you're going to love it," I said, pulling up photos on my tablet. "The ceremony will be right at sunset, and there's this beautiful arch they'll decorate with local flowers." "Ella, stop." My mother's voice cut through my excitement like a knife. "We looked at the pictures you sent. That place looks cheap." My smile faltered. "It's not cheap, it's intimate. Only 50 people, mostly close friends, and we can't be seen there," my father interrupted. His tone was final, dismissive. "We raised you better than this budget nonsense. What will people think?" My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "People will think we're getting married in a place that means something to us." "It looks like a fish shack," Mom said flatly. "So you're not coming?" I asked, my voice suddenly small. There was a pause, long enough that I thought maybe they were reconsidering. Then Mom spoke again, her voice cold and certain. "Not to that kind of wedding." Click. The line went dead. I sat there in stunned silence, staring at my phone like it had betrayed me. The venue owner walked past my car window, waving cheerfully, probably wondering why I hadn't come inside yet. I couldn't move. My hands were shaking. Daniel had gone in ahead to meet with the caterer, and I was supposed to follow. But now I couldn't make my legs work. The driver's side door opened, and Daniel leaned in, his face immediately shifting from happy to concerned. "Ella? What's wrong?" "They're not coming," I whispered. He climbed into the passenger seat and closed the door. "What do you mean?" "My parents. They called the venue trash. They said they can't be seen here. They're not coming to our wedding." My voice cracked on the last word. Daniel pulled me close, and I buried my face in his shoulder. But I didn't cry, not from sadness exactly. It was disbelief. Shock. How could the people who raised me, who were supposed to love me unconditionally, humiliate me like this? Over a venue? Over what other people might think. "We don't need them," Daniel said softly, stroking my hair. But even as he said it, we both knew it wasn't that simple. They were my parents. And they'd just chosen their pride over my happiness. This wasn't the first time my parents had put appearances over everything else. Growing up, I'd learned early that image mattered more than authenticity in our house. We wore designer clothes even when money was tight. We attended charity galas we couldn't afford. We lived in a house that was too big, drove cars that were too expensive, all to maintain the illusion of success. When I was 16, I'd wanted to volunteer at an animal shelter for my summer break. My mother had said, "Absolutely not. You'll smell like dogs, and people will think we can't afford a real summer program." So instead, I'd attended an expensive arts camp I hated, just so Mom could tell her friends about it. When I'd gotten into a state university on a full scholarship, Dad had tried to convince me to go to a private school and take out loans instead. "The name matters," he'd insisted. "Nobody respects a state school degree." I'd gone to state school anyway. It was one of the few times I'd stood up to them. That's where I'd met Daniel, in a literature class, both of us working part-time jobs to pay for books. He was studying to be a teacher, passionate about education, kind to everyone. My parents had hated him from the start. "A teacher?" Mom had said when I'd brought him home for the first time. "Ella, you could do so much better." The morning after the phone call, I woke up to a text from my mother. "No apology, no let's talk about this. Just, your cousins agree. That venue is beneath our family. You're embarrassing us." I stared at the message, feeling sick. She'd been talking to the extended family about this? Gossiping about my wedding like it was some scandal? My phone buzzed again. This time it was my cousin Chloe, who was supposed to be my maid of honor. "Ella, I'm so sorry, but I can't be in the wedding anymore." Your mom is really upset, and I can't get in the middle of family drama. I hope you understand. I didn't understand. Chloe and I had been close since childhood. We'd promised each other we'd be in each other's weddings someday. But now she was backing out because my mother was upset. I texted back, so you're choosing her feelings over mine? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally, it's not like that. I just think maybe you should postpone until things calm down. Give your parents time to come around. I threw my phone across the bed. Time to come around? They were the ones who needed to apologize, not me. But I could already see how this was going to play out. My entire support system was crumbling because nobody wanted to upset my parents. That afternoon, my father called. I almost didn't answer, but some small part of me hoped he was calling to apologize. Ella, he said, his voice attempting to sound reasonable. Your mother and I have been talking. We have a solution. I'm listening, I said cautiously. Cancel this beach wedding. We'll pay for a proper venue next year. Give us time to plan something appropriate. The country club has availability next June, and we could. No, I interrupted. Dad, I don't want a country club wedding. I don't want to wait a year. I want to marry Daniel at the beach venue we chose because it's meaningful to us. He sighed, that disappointed, "You're being difficult" sigh I'd heard my entire life. Ella, you're being stubborn. We're offering to pay for everything. A beautiful venue, a professional planner, a photographer who actually knows what they're doing. This is what every bride dreams of. It's what you dream of, I said, my voice shaking. Not me. I want my wedding. Not yours. There was a long pause. Then his voice went cold. Then you'll have to do it without us. Your choice. Okay, I whispered. Okay, then. He hung up. I sat on my couch, staring at nothing, trying to process what had just happened. My parents weren't coming to my wedding. They'd rather miss their only daughter's marriage than be seen at a cheap venue. Over the next 48 hours, the guest list imploded. My aunt called to say she couldn't attend because it would upset my mother if she came when Mom wasn't going. 2 of my cousins texted similar excuses. Even some friends who knew my parents started making excuses: prior commitments, travel issues, budget concerns. One of Daniel's groomsmen pulled me aside at the venue to say, I heard your mom's been calling people, telling them the wedding might not happen. Is everything okay? My stomach dropped. She's been calling our guests? I don't know for sure, but that's what I heard through the grapevine. I wanted to scream. I wanted to call my mother and ask her what she thought she was doing. But I knew the answer: she was trying to sabotage the wedding because if she couldn't control it, she'd rather it didn't happen at all. Daniel found me sitting on the deck of the venue that evening, watching the sunset alone. We'll find another way, he said softly, sitting beside me. We'll elope if we have to. We'll get married at City Hall. We'll do whatever it takes. I leaned my head on his shoulder. I just wanted one day. One day where my family supported me instead of judging me. I know, he said. I know. By the end of the week, things got worse. The venue coordinator called me with bad news. Ella, I'm so sorry, but we're going to have to cancel your booking. What? Why? Your parents put down a deposit when you first reserved the date. They called this morning and demanded it back. Without that deposit, we can't hold the date for you. My heart sank. They did what? I tried to explain that it's non-refundable at this point, but they insisted. They even threatened to leave bad reviews online. I run a small business, and I can't afford that kind of negativity. I'm really sorry. I hung up and immediately called my mother. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice pleasant. Hello, Ella. You canceled my venue? I said, my voice shaking with rage. You called them and took back the deposit? It's our money, she said simply. If you're not having a proper wedding, we're not funding it. You've humiliated me, I said. You've called my guests, spread rumors, and now you've sabotaged the actual venue. What is wrong with you? We're trying to protect you from making a mistake, she said, still calm. One day you'll thank us. I hung up without another word. Daniel found me crying on the kitchen floor an hour later. He didn't say anything, just held me while I sobbed. Finally, when I could speak again, I said, let's start over. No venue, no guests, no family. Just us. I am sure you are enjoying this story, so, please hit that subscribe button, because what happens next will leave you speechless. That night, I couldn't sleep. Daniel had finally dozed off beside me, but my mind was racing. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through wedding photos on social media, torturing myself with images of happy brides surrounded by supportive families. Then I stumbled onto something different, an article about destination elopements. Small, private ceremonies in beautiful locations. No pressure, no judgment, no family drama. Just two people and their love. I clicked through the photos, couples on mountain tops, in forests, on beaches in faraway countries. And then I saw it, a wedding on a Greek island. White stone walls, turquoise water, cliffs overlooking the Aegean Sea. The couple stood alone on a terrace at sunset, just them and an officiant. It was breathtaking. Simple. Perfect. I zoomed in on the location tag, Santorini, Greece. I looked at Daniel sleeping peacefully and smiled for the first time in weeks. What if we didn't tell anyone? What if we just disappeared and got married exactly how we wanted, without anyone's input or judgment? I opened a new browser tab and started researching. Flights to Greece. Elopement packages. Photographers who specialized in intimate ceremonies. By the time the sun came up, I had a plan. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I felt something other than heartbreak. I felt excited. When Daniel woke up, I showed him everything I'd found. What if we eloped? I asked. Just us, to Greece. No family, no drama, no trying to please everyone. Just our wedding, exactly how we want it. He looked at the photos on my laptop, then at me. Are you sure? I know how much you wanted your family there. I wanted them to support me, I corrected. But they've made it clear that won't happen unless I do everything their way. So why not do it my way completely? He smiled, that warm, understanding smile that had made me fall in love with him in the first place. When do we leave? We booked flights for 2 weeks out. A small ceremony on Santorini, at a tiny chapel overlooking the sea. A local photographer, an English-speaking officiant, and accommodations at a villa with an ocean view. The total cost was less than the deposit my parents had taken back. We told no one. Not friends, not distant relatives, certainly not my parents. As far as anyone knew, we were postponing the wedding indefinitely due to family circumstances. Which was technically true. The hardest part was keeping the secret. Every time my phone rang with another relative asking about the situation, I had to bite my tongue to keep from telling them the truth. But the secrecy also felt empowering. For the first time in my life, I was making a major decision without my parents' input or approval. The night before our flight, I was packing when my phone lit up with a text from my mother. I almost didn't read it, but something made me look. You'll regret doing this without us. No one will even remember your wedding. You're throwing away the chance at a real celebration for what? Stubbornness? Think about what you're doing. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to cry. But a bigger part of me felt something else, a quiet, determined anger. No one would remember my wedding? We'd see about that. I opened my laptop and found the photographer's website. I'd hired her for photos, but I noticed she also offered livestream services for an additional fee. Couples who wanted to share their intimate ceremonies with distant relatives could have the whole thing broadcast online. An idea started forming in my mind. A petty, satisfying, slightly vindictive idea. I emailed the photographer, can you add live stream services to my package? I'd like the ceremony broadcast online. She responded within an hour, absolutely. I'll send you the link beforehand so you can share it with anyone who wants to watch. I smiled at my phone screen. Oh, I'd share it all right. My mother wanted to act like my wedding didn't matter. Fine. She could watch it happen from 6,000 miles away. What are you smirking about? Daniel asked, folding a shirt. Nothing, I said innocently. Just finalizing some details. The flight to Athens, then the short jump to Santorini, felt like shedding layers of stress with each mile. No one knew where we were. My phone was on airplane mode. For the first time in months, I could breathe without worrying about my mother calling to criticize something or my father demanding I change my plans. When we landed in Santorini and stepped out into the Greek sunshine, I actually laughed. Pure, genuine laughter. What? Daniel asked, grinning at my reaction. I just realized, no one knows we're here. No one can judge us or make demands or ruin this. It's just us. He pulled me close and kissed my forehead. Best decision we ever made. Our villa was perfect, white walls, blue doors, a terrace overlooking the caldera. The water was impossibly blue, the kind of blue you think is edited in photos but is actually real. We spent the afternoon walking through the narrow streets of Oia, eating fresh seafood, drinking wine, and pretending we were just regular tourists. That evening, sitting on our terrace watching the famous Santorini sunset, Daniel said, "Do you miss them? Your family?" I thought about it honestly. I miss the family I wish I had. The one that would be happy for us no matter where we got married. But the family I actually have? The ones who care more about appearances than my happiness? I shook my head. No. I don't miss them at all. This feels like peace, I added softly. Yeah, he agreed. It really does. The next morning, we visited the ceremony location, a tiny Byzantine chapel called Agios Georgios, perched on a cliff with nothing but sky and sea beyond it. The chapel was simple, whitewashed walls and a blue dome, surrounded by wildflowers. Our photographer, Elena, was already there setting up. She was a Greek woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a warm smile. Welcome, she said, hugging us both like we were family. This is one of my favorite ceremony spots. So romantic, so peaceful. She showed us where we'd stand, where she'd position herself for photos, and where she'd set up the live stream camera. The signal is very good here, she assured me. Your family will be able to watch everything clearly. Perfect, I said, and I meant it. The officiant, a bilingual Greek priest named Father Andreas, arrived shortly after. He was elderly, with a white beard and gentle manner. I have married many couples here, he said in accented English. But I love the intimate ceremonies best. When it is just two people and their love, with no distractions, you can feel the presence of God more clearly. Daniel squeezed my hand. Just you two? Father Andreas asked. We nodded. That's all we need, I said. For the first time, saying those words didn't feel sad or like I was missing out. It felt exactly right. The morning of the wedding, I woke up early. The sun was just rising over the caldera, painting everything in shades of pink and gold. I made coffee and sat on the terrace, watching the light change, and felt completely calm. No nerves, no stress, no last-minute panic. Just anticipation. Daniel found me there an hour later. You're awake early, he said, kissing the top of my head. Couldn't sleep. Too excited. We spent the morning slowly getting ready. No teams of makeup artists or hairstylists, no bridesmaids fussing around me. Just me, alone in the villa's bedroom, putting on the simple silk dress I'd bought at a boutique in Athens. It was ivory, floor-length, with delicate straps and a low back. I'd imagined wearing something different originally, something more elaborate, with lace and beading. But this dress felt right. Elegant, simple, honest. I left my hair down in loose waves, added minimal makeup, and didn't bother with shoes. I'd be barefoot on the chapel grounds anyway. When I emerged from the bedroom, Daniel was waiting in the living room. He wore a linen suit, also bought in Athens, the jacket a soft cream color. When he saw me, he actually teared up. "Ella," he breathed. "You've never looked happier." And I realized he was right. I'd spent so much time crying and stressing over my parents' rejection that I'd forgotten the whole point. I was marrying my best friend. Nothing else mattered. We arrived at the chapel an hour before sunset. Elena was already there, her camera equipment set up, the live stream ready to go. "Are you ready to share the link?" she asked me. I pulled out my phone. One last moment to reconsider. I could still keep this private, just for us. But then I remembered my mother's text, "No one will even remember your wedding." I opened my message thread with my parents, the one that had been silent since our last argument, and typed, "Thought you might want to see what you missed." I pasted the livestream link and hit send. Then I turned off my phone completely and handed it to Elena. "Can you hold this? I don't want any distractions." The ceremony was scheduled for sunset, when the light would be perfect. We waited on the terrace outside the chapel, watching the sun sink toward the horizon. Father Andreas appeared in his traditional robes, smiling warmly. "It is time," he said. Elena positioned herself with her camera. The livestream indicator showed we were broadcasting. Somewhere, thousands of miles away, my parents were probably getting my message. Probably clicking the link. Probably seeing this beautiful chapel, this stunning view, this intimate ceremony. I took Daniel's hand, and we walked to the spot where we'd stand. The sun was setting behind us, turning the sky pink and orange and purple. A warm breeze carried the scent of wildflowers. Father Andreas began speaking, his voice steady and peaceful. And we got married. The ceremony itself was simple but profound. Father Andreas spoke about love as a journey, about commitment as a choice made daily, about marriage as a partnership built on respect and trust. We'd written our own vows, and when it was my turn to speak, I looked at Daniel and forgot about everything else, my parents, the drama, the live stream. It was just us. "Daniel, you've shown me what real love looks like," I said, my voice clear despite the emotion. "Not love that comes with conditions or requirements. Not love that depends on image or approval. Just love. Pure and simple and real." I saw him tear up again. "You've stood by me through the hardest months of my life. You never asked me to choose between you and my family, you just loved me through it. And today, I choose you. Always you." His vows were equally beautiful, talking about building a life based on our values, not anyone else's expectations. When Father Andreas pronounced us married, and Daniel kissed me with the sunset behind us, I felt something break free inside my chest. Freedom. Pure, complete freedom. Elena captured it all, the kiss, the laughter, the way we held each other while the sun sank into the Aegean. After the ceremony, she smiled and said, "Your live stream had over 200 viewers by the end. 200 people had watched. Friends, maybe. Curious strangers. And definitely my parents." We spent the hour after the ceremony taking photos with Elena. She was an artist, positioning us against the white chapel walls, on the cliff edge with nothing but sky behind us, in the chapel doorway with the last light streaming through. "You two are naturals," she kept saying. "So much genuine joy. This is what wedding photography should always be." When she finally finished, she handed me back my phone. "You might want to check your messages," she said with a knowing smile. I turned on my phone and watched it explode with notifications. 43 missed calls. Over 60 text messages. Multiple voicemails. The messages were from everyone, my mother, my father, cousins, aunts, family, friends. I opened my mother's first. "Ella, where are you?" Sent 15 minutes after I'd shared the link. Then, "Is that Greece?" 10 minutes later, "You didn't invite us? You eloped without telling anyone?" 5 minutes after that, "How could you do this?" My father's messages were similar, moving from confusion to anger to something that almost looked like hurt. But there were other messages too. From friends who'd apparently found the livestream link somehow. OMG Ella, this is the most beautiful wedding I've ever seen. I'm crying happy tears. This is perfect. Forget what your parents said, this is better than any country club wedding. I showed some of them to Daniel, and we both laughed. Should we respond? He asked. I looked at the setting sun, at the chapel where we'd just gotten married, at my husband. Later, I said. Right now, let's just dance. Elena had suggested we stay for the evening, and she'd arranged for a local musician to play violin on the chapel terrace. As the stars came out over the Aegean, we danced to simple, beautiful music, just us, the violinist, and the sound of the waves below. My phone kept buzzing in my bag, but I ignored it. This moment was ours, and I wasn't going to let anyone intrude on it. The musician played for an hour, then packed up with a warm smile. Congratulations, he said. 40 years I've been playing weddings, and the small ones are always the happiest. After he left, Daniel and I sat on the chapel steps, looking out at the dark sea dotted with lights from distant boats. Do you think they're angry? He asked. Your parents? I knew who he meant. Probably. But that's not my problem anymore. I gave them every opportunity to be part of this. They chose their pride instead. No regrets? None, I said firmly. Then I pulled out my phone and finally opened social media. The livestream link had somehow spread beyond my immediate circle. Friends had shared it, and their friends had shared it. The view count was over 2,000. Comments poured in from people I barely knew. This is what weddings should be. Screw big expensive weddings, this is real, I'm showing this to my daughter. Intimate weddings are the future. Someone had even screen recorded parts of the ceremony and posted clips on different platforms. My simple Greek island wedding was going viral. We stayed in Greece for a week, our honeymoon and our escape from reality. But eventually, we had to go home. The flight back felt different from the flight there. We were returning as different people, married, yes, but also changed in deeper ways. We'd chosen ourselves over approval. We'd built something beautiful without permission. When we landed and turned on our phones after clearing customs, the messages started flooding in again. But this time, there were also calls from people I hadn't expected. My mother's best friend, Patricia, had texted, "Saw your ceremony. Called your mother to tell her how beautiful it was. She didn't want to hear it." My father's brother, Uncle Marcus, wrote, "Your dad called me upset about the wedding. I watched the live stream. Ella, it was perfect. Don't let them make you feel bad about this." Even some family friends had reached out to say they'd seen it and thought it was lovely. My parents, meanwhile, had gone silent. No calls, no texts. I could only imagine what was happening in their social circle. By the time we got home and unpacked, I had messages from 3 of my mother's friends. They were all variations of the same thing, congratulations, followed by I mentioned the wedding to your mother, and she seemed upset. One of them, a woman named Beatrice who'd known me since childhood, was more direct, your mother is embarrassed, Ella. People keep asking her about the wedding, and she has to admit she wasn't there. It's not sitting well. A week after we returned, my cousin Chloe, the one who'd backed out of being my maid of honor, sent me a long text. Ella, I owe you an apology. I watched your wedding livestream, and it was absolutely stunning. I was wrong to let your mom pressure me into backing out. You did the right thing. She's been calling me, upset that people won't stop talking about your wedding. Apparently, everyone she knows saw it and keeps bringing it up. She's humiliated that she wasn't there, but she won't admit she was wrong. Anyway, I'm sorry. And congratulations. You and Daniel looked so happy. I showed the message to Daniel. They're realizing what they missed, he said. But are they actually sorry, or just embarrassed? Does it matter? I asked. Either way, they made their choice. But I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a small, petty part of me that enjoyed knowing my mother was uncomfortable. She'd tried to sabotage my wedding because it wasn't good enough for her standards. And now her entire social circle had seen it and loved it. More messages came over the next few days. Distant relatives reaching out to say they'd found the livestream online and thought it was beautiful. Former coworkers commenting on social media about how they'd watched and cried. A bridal blog had even featured screenshots with the caption, "Small, simple, and stunning, the future of modern weddings." My mother's friend sent her the link. I know because she forwarded it to me with, "Your mom saw this." She didn't say anything. 3 weeks after the wedding, there was a knock on our apartment door. I opened it to find my parents standing there, looking uncomfortable. Neither of them was smiling. "Can we come in?" my mother asked. I almost said no. But Daniel appeared behind me and nodded slightly, his way of saying it was okay, he was there for whatever happened. I stepped aside and let them in. We sat in the living room, an awkward silence filling the space. Finally, my mother spoke. "We saw your wedding," she said quietly. Everyone saw it, apparently, my father added, a hint of bitterness in his voice. "We're happy for you," my mother continued, though the words sounded forced. "Are you?" I asked. "Because you don't sound happy. You sound embarrassed." My mother's face flushed. "Ella, you have to understand, we had our reasons for not wanting that beach venue." "We were trying to help you." "No," I interrupted. "You were trying to control me. And when I wouldn't let you, you tried to sabotage everything. You pulled our deposit, called our guests, spread rumors. You didn't help me. You tried to destroy my wedding because it wasn't what you wanted." "We thought you were making a mistake," my father said. I looked at them both, these people who raised me, who I'd spent my whole life trying to please. "The only mistake I made was thinking you'd support me no matter what. But you taught me something important." "What's that?" my mother asked. "That I don't need your approval to be happy." My mother looked away, and I saw something flicker across her face, maybe shame, maybe just discomfort. She wasn't used to being called out so directly. "You didn't have to be part of our wedding to support us," I continued, my voice softer now. "You could have just been happy for us. But you chose your pride and your image over your own daughter." "That's not fair," my father started to say. "Isn't it?" I asked. "Tell me honestly, would you have come if we'd chosen the country club? If we'd had the expensive, impressive wedding you wanted?" They didn't answer, which was answer enough. "We should go," my mother said, standing up. My father followed her lead. At the door, my mother turned back. "Your wedding was beautiful," she said quietly. I watched the whole thing. Twice, actually. It wasn't an apology. But it was something. "Thank you," I said. After they left, Daniel wrapped his arms around me. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Actually, I am." Because I realized something in that moment, I didn't need them to apologize or admit they were wrong. I didn't need their approval or their blessing. I'd built a beautiful life with Daniel, and we'd had a perfect wedding on our own terms. That was enough. Thank you so much for watching. If you've ever felt pressured to live up to someone else's expectations, if you've chosen your own path despite family disapproval, or if you've ever been told your dreams weren't good enough, this story is for you. Please subscribe and share this with anyone who needs a reminder that your happiness doesn't require anyone else's permission. Your life, your choices, your joy, they're yours to define. Remember, the people who truly love you will support you even when they don't understand your choices. And those who only love you conditionally? They're teaching you the most important lesson of all, that you're strong enough to thrive without their approval. Thank you for being part of this journey. Keep choosing joy. Keep building your own beautiful story. And never, ever let anyone convince you that your happiness is trash. Until next time.